I came up with Sin City completely as an act of self-satisfaction. I decided I was going to sit down and do a book that would feature all the things that I'd like to draw. The fast cars and hot babes and the guys in trench coats. And I put together stories that incorporated that. It was a completely selfish act.
Because I remember the idea of the Sin City movie being around back in the early 90s, but I never thought, how could they ever adapt it? It would just become a regular movie. It wouldn't have the same feel. I started really looking at it as, instead of trying to turn it into a movie, which would be terrible, let's take cinema and try and make it into this book. Because the mediums really are very similar. These are just snapshots of movement. So I was so excited about it. Probably the most excited I've ever been about a project. I hunted Frank Miller down and knew I had to get his blessing and his involvement in order to make it right.
I was a hard sell. I've got a good life drawing my comic books, and there's really no need to let anybody have my baby. And I held to that fine until this Rodriguez guy started bugging my attorney and then my editor and hunting me down like a wild dog. And essentially, I was seduced. Robert showed up at our first meeting. He whipped open his laptop, and he'd already done some test shots of how he wanted to photograph actors and how to stage things that really looked damn good.
I don't want to make Robert Rodriguez's Sin City. I want to make Frank Miller's Sin City because I love that material so much.
He said, how about I fly you to Texas? We'll just do a test in one day. He called it a test. We'll see how it works out. He said, the worst possible thing is we'll end up with a cool little short film and, part ways. Maybe you'll agree to do this. And I thought, what are you going to do in a day? I'd been on movie sets. In a day, you have somebody fill a coffee cup. And in 10 hours, he shot an entire 3-page short story of mine. This so-called test happened to include 2 very accomplished actors and be a completely polished piece of work that's going to be in the movie.
Robert just basically came to me and said, I'm doing this graphic novel, putting it and making it into a movie. I don't have the rights to it, and I need somebody to come down and help me convince him to, let us go ahead with it.
When I saw it, it just looked so amazing. It was just so great, and it was like true Frank Miller drawings. It's like, it was a real Sin City cityscape.
The only way to do a movie this faithful to something like Sin City would be to have someone like Frank Miller co-directing with me. Frank is a natural storyteller. He's a visual storyteller. And I thought he had a different approach to it. I didn't think someone from the comic world like Frank, who does what Frank does, need to come into Hollywood and suddenly start down here and move his way up. I thought he should be right at the same level as he's doing what I'm doing. He's graphically and with character and with visuals creating stories, telling stories. So I thought he should just be co-directing the movie. Okay.
I wouldn't have gotten involved with anybody in Sin City without having a director's position.
What was your last pose? Where were you last at?
Sin City's too precious to me, and I could never entirely trust anybody else with it. I know the place. I live there, and I know everybody there. I even know where they went to school.
Hey, Becky. Gail said no calls. I just want to hear my mom's voice. I won't tell her nothing.
Frank has such incredible backstory about the characters, which is so great. Any question you have for him, he knows, what she was doing before she walked into the scene, what her history is, all of that stuff.
He wrote this stuff. And if you read Frank's writing without looking at the panels, it stands alone, just as true film noir writing. And I think all the actors felt that it was our job to not only pay homage to the books and to film noir style, but also to Frank's writing. I don't think anybody changed any lines. Frank did, and he would suggest cutting a line or changing a line, and I always argued with him. I said, no, let's do it. Let's do the exact text in the books.
Frank very much was the artistic director.
Keep the snake for the moment, but I want more booze back here.
And Robert was the let's get it shot, let's get it done well, and let's get it cut together director.
And Robert is visually so amazing and so respectful also of Frank's sort of work.
He's not trying to outright outdraw Frank Miller, and I think that's his ace in the hole because he's staying true.
Of all the principles involved in this, I've been the most startled by how faithful it is to the original.
Frankie, ready?
Robert always talks about 3 projects in advance, and at some point he mentioned it once, just in passing.
Robert was doing this movie and he thought, you know, it'd be perfect if Quentin came down and did one scene.
I love film and, you know, that's my thing, all right? And I love Robert's movies and stuff, but, you know, I'm just not about shooting it on digital.
And he was intrigued by it, but I knew he wouldn't do it on his own, so I wanted him to come down and, you know, shoot a short, so he could try out digital, so he could see how it is to work with actors in a digital realm, and I thought he would like the source material once he found out what it was.
Well, remember, you showed up at the editing room for a spotting session. You walked in with Frank Miller.
I said, "This is
and
Frank
that was when I realized, all right, one, I was like, Frank Miller, all right, you know, my assistant editor is a gigantic comic book geek, and like, it was like one of the happiest days of his life. And I even remember as we go into the room, he was outside in the room, and he's like, Frank Miller. I go, yes.
When I showed him Quentin the opening test we did for Sin City, he said, "Wow, that's the one you were asking me to come direct a piece for?" I said, "Yeah, this is the one."
You know, not only does he come in with Frank Miller and everything, and I show him some scenes and stuff, he goes, "So here's what we're doing," and then he shows me the opening scene. And it's not like, you know, sort of, kind of, this will be sort of what it looks like. It's like, boom, it was like ready to play at the Cinerama Dome, all right? And then I read the scene, and it's fantastic. Then I hear that, you know, Clive Owen is in it, and Benicio del Toro, you know, who I've never even met those guys, all right?
And, you know, and Quentin said, sure, I'll do it.
So I had him come direct a whole scene sequence for the big fat kill.
The scene I did in the film is the girls of Old Town have just killed Jackie Boy. And now Dwight has to dispose of the body. And the thing is, he's got to drive from Old Town to the tar pits. And they're just going to take the whole car and dump it in the pits. All right? But then the girls didn't put enough gas in the car. All right? So now he's got to, like, get the car to the pits on whatever tank of gas he has, not get stopped by the cops, the whole 9 yards. So Dwight, who is, like, just completely Mr. Cool, is just starting to get a little tense. And in his tension, Jackie Boy, in his mind, comes to life and starts having a conversation with him in the car. And basically, it's him talking to himself. But Jackie Boy is voicing all of his fears about what could happen and what's going to happen. So you have a scene of a guy talking to himself. One of the things that's terrific about it is, as much as Benicio, as Jackie Boy, is taunting him, this strange kind of camaraderie starts developing between the two of them, and it's really funny. It's really, really funny, especially if you're a fan of the books. You know how Dwight is just so unflappable, and to see him little by little by little lose it in the course of the scene, all right, is just priceless.
We wanted a different tone for that scene anyway, and you gave it a stamp, and I think people will know that you directed that sequence, which was cool. I think that was sort of the goal, and we pulled it off. I told you the morning of, you didn't have to do anything. You don't feel like you have to come in and have to deliver something that'll be really distinct, but you just naturally will do that, because that's just your style, and that's what was cool about it.
Well, it was funny, because I actually came in with, like, somewhat of a shot list, and I came in...
I was shocked. I was like, man,
I'm nervous, all right? I prepare when I'm nervous.
I'm like, I don't prepare that much. I feel bad.
No, I don't prepare on my movies. I was just nervous. I didn't want to let you down. I didn't want to look like an idiot. Oh no! To me, everyone is.
He came in knowing already what a shot was going to be, what the colors of the lights. There were going to be colored lights flashing on the actors, but keep them black and white.
You've got the bouncing headlights, fanning out from their profile.
Visually, it's a really stunning piece, and he put his stamp all over it.
It was fascinating working with Quentin because I got to see a completely different style than Robert's. Even though the three of us share so much in terms of a pop cultural sensibility, shockingly harmonious given the enormity of the three egos in the room.
So we can see just a little bit more of your eyes.
No, but we really held back and did I was really just there as the camera operator and editor. Frank was there as the writer. We really let you just direct the actors. And I'd hear Frank go, "Oh, that's good to know." I'd go right over to him and say, "What did Quentin just tell you? What did you just learn? Tell me." He goes, "Oh, well, you never should do this or that and that." And it's like, it's good advice. Probably would have taken me another 10 years to figure that out.
It's a recipe for chaos having 3 directors at one point. You know, it's like, who do you talk to? There was none of that. None of that. It was easy.
Hey, but your head's down like this in that first part. when you look at him and we see that you're alive and everything.
Just a little turn.
That's
like
it.
That, yeah.
That's exactly
But to
it.
look at the gauge, I'm going to really reach.
Oh, there you go. For the gauge thing, that's it. This is just showing, this is the vampire moment, showing that you're, And it was great because Benicio was walking away and he turned around and he saw me after the scene was over. He goes, and he saw me, I was like smiling and everything. He goes, okay, I did okay. Quentin's smiling. I like to see it when he smiles.
Hey, and let's have a big thank you and round of applause to our guest director today.
Special guest director.
We'll be back. Thank you, everybody. I had a fantastic time. Thanks for making me feel so at home.
At the end of the day, Frank came to me and said, "It's the most fun I've ever had in my life." And I'm going to write that down and remind you, because it was a great day. 3 directors on the set.
Almost good. Almost good. Man, we were like, why did we wait like 8 years, all right, to get back together again? What all that time was wasted.
We could have those years back, holding our hands.
The cars in Sin City are such important characters in the story. I own several hundred die-cast metal cars. I'm always finding new ones and finding new sources for that. But I'd never seen the real live big cars.
We had, I think, 21 principal cars. This show has no period to it, but apparently Frank loves the 50s cars because all the cars in here almost are 1950s cars. I was in high school then. So it was easy for me to identify the cars in the book just from, they were neat cars whenever I was in high school.
Cecil and his people have hunted down all these cars. Now they're being driven across the lot and put in my movie. That's just stunning.
Whenever we got our hands on the books themselves, first thing we had to do was identify the cars that they wanted to use in the show. And after we got them all identified, we started looking for them. In the first episode, we had Wendy's convertible, which was a 55 Porsche Spyder convertible. This here, our 59 Cadillac convertible, that's Dwight's car. It's kind of a neat find. We started off by running an ad in the paper. I contacted every car club in town, but we really found most of them just by going out and looking and knocking on doors. And a lot of the cars that we came up with, like we called the people and they said, "How did you know we had this car?" So, we surprised them whenever we found the car in their garage and they hadn't responded in any way to our searches. Some of them we didn't keep more than just a few days. Some of them we kept a week or so. A big find was Hartigan's. It's a 55 Buick convertible. We found one. It was red and white, so we told him he had a choice of a red and white one or a white and red one. The 55 police car, 55 Chevy, was our police car, and it played in both Marv and in the Alabaster.
3, 2, 1, go.
This boat here is Jackie Boy's car. In the book itself, this car was a 68 Plymouth Roadrunner. But the Roadrunner is kind of a sporty looking car. There's not a lot of room in it, and Robert's got 5 people in this car to film. So we found this car, which is a big old boat. He can put 5 people in. He can get the camera in there, and he can film it much easier. That's a 41 Chevrolet. It is Dallas's car. This is a 62 Jag XKE, which was Rourke Jr.'s car. That's a 57 T-Bird. It's the body transfer car, and that's the one they cut up all the bodies in and stick them in the trunk. This was Nancy's car, the 57 Chevy Nomad. And this is the only car we did not find in Austin. We found about 6 or 8 57 Chevy station wagons, but this is the only true Nomad that we found it in San Antonio. This is the Yellow Bastard's car, and the Yellow Bastard's car in the comic book is a 1936, 37, 38 Bugatti 57C Atlantic. They made 3 of them. One in 1936, one in 1937, one in 1938. 1987, one of those 3 sold for $9.7 million that they could rent if they wanted to rent them, but they were like $100,000 a week. So we found this car. It's a 1937 Cadillac. This is the Priest Mercedes, as it's referred to in the script. This was Marv's car, an old Corvair. This was our taxi. It's a 49 Chevy. We used the taxi in both Marv and in the Yellow Bastard. This is Lub's fancy car, is how it's identified in the script. And it's about an 89 Ferrari.
Sin City, you know, the rumors about what Robert's next project were numerous. I heard everything from Godzilla to Madman. The one thing I had not heard was Frank Miller's Sin City.
That's one of the most fun parts is working with Steve Joyner, getting the props together, because she's been my prop guy since Just Till Dawn, I think.
When Robert contacted me first about the job, he said, "You're going to love it. The storyboards are completely done for every frame." I'm like, "Robert, what are you talking about? How can the storyboards be done? There's 600 pages. He said, "I've got the 3 books. Just take them, look through it. We're going to shoot it exactly like that."
Since Frank draws his props with such meticulous detail, I let him go at it with Steve. Hey, go visit the prop shop. I usually get to enjoy this on every movie. I'm going to let you have that experience this time.
This whole production's been astounding to me because I've seen with such expertise and dedication aimed at pages I drew with no intention of having them translated in any other medium. I mean, when I drew this stuff, it was going to be a comic book. And that was it. That was its final fate.
The thing that's very interesting about Frank is his drawings are so exacting and so specific. An example, we talked with him about a specific knife that he uses, which is a Buckmaster knife. I looked at the storyboards, and I brought the storyboards to some of the shops here in town, and they ID'd it right away. They said, "This is a Buckmaster knife. It's no longer available. You can only get it through a collector." So I was able to get some help that way, and we actually got 1 Buckmaster knife and 1 replica. We then took that and made our own knife blade. We wanted to modify it to make it look really mean and nasty.
He draws based on life, but everything has a Basin City twist to it. It's Frank's own world, so it's slightly unreal.
So he would go in and get to figure out what the props were going to look like and match them to his drawings. And I think he just ended up taking most of the props out of there by the end as souvenirs to his house.
We did manufacture pretty much everything. There's probably not a single off-the-shelf prop in the movie.
But here we have an example, obviously, of the beginnings of design for props that we make. These are some illustrations. This is the knife from the Yellow Bastard. This is a weapon for Miho that we designed and basically consists of 20 different molded and machined parts. Very labor-intensive, but something we were really proud of, and it looks really cool.
Basically, we've been going through the storyboards and finding out what elements need to be created for on-set, and those things that we have to design going with the rest of the book. We just create a few designs, get them approved, and then take these drawings and make a 3D model of them. And these 3D models are what we use to create on the milling machines, which are molded and then painted and used in props for the movie.
This is actually the real knife, and this is actually the fake knife, and there's really not much difference.
It's stunning, but it's also, it's like seeing, in a lot of ways, this movie is quite literally like having a dream come true.
Mostly Sin City's about booze, broads, and guns. Running throughout the 3 stories, we tie it together with Katie's Club Pecos, the bar where all the characters sort of mix and mingle. And in that bar is Nancy. One of the stories does center on Nancy as one of the lead characters. And we did a very, very cool Western rig double Black Hawk pistol for her. We took one of the Teamster roping experts, a guy named Joe Yanis here, who's one of our driver captains, is an expert trick roper, and he worked with her for several days and taught her how to rope for real. So she's actually, when you see Jessica Alba up there, she's doing it, and she's very good at it.
I wrote you.
A Big Fat Kill. Things that we made for Nick. Australian bullwhip. He had this amazing silver knife that he threatens Nancy with.
Here we have the finished product of one of the props we were talking about. This is the knife for the Yellow Bastard. This milling machine cuts this out in 3D. This is the blade that we designed. This will now go into the mold shop where Marcus and Brandon are, and they will mold this and do castings. They can do all the scenic work, and within a couple of days have beautiful props for us. We are in the infamous mold shop.
Basically what our job is to make stuff that doesn't exist or to duplicate stuff that already does. And typically when we get something that's purchased, we basically sort of make a box like you see back here, and it gets filled with silicone. And basically we pull 2 halves. And each side, as it's closed, forms a complete piece. We then pour plastic in this little hole here, and this is typically what comes out.
So we have a lot of guns that Frank's drawn in the book. Because of the 50s nature of Frank's drawings, the cops, the characters in the books use a lot of revolvers. They use World War II Colt pistols, very classical lines. Frank contributed to some of the RoboCop films, and he drew in the RoboCop pistol in some of the scenes. So we had to go to Gibbons Entertainment of Burbank and find the manufacturer of the RoboCop guns and bring them in for Frank. And he was amazed to see them after so many years back in action. But again, we're matching the story panels exactly to the movie. So what he's drawn, we're bringing to life.
This is basically silicone glass. As you can see, it looks like the real thing. Even its fragmentation, the pattern on it's great. It's a good example. Most of it, there was a car scene where I think Marv jumps through the front window. And when he does that, they basically have a whole bunch of this stuff loaded into an air cannon, and they just blast it at the guys inside the car. And this just makes sure that everybody's safe, nobody gets hurt, still looks real.
In Big Fat Kill, we have a character named Miho, who's a female Asian martial artist.
You know, it's really important to Frank and to Robert that I look, every inch as fierce as Miho's supposed to look and as people expect her to be.
This right here is the mold for the staff for Miho. We finished pouring the material and we're ready to pull it out. So I'm going to go ahead and start.
She has this staff with this half-moon blade on it that Frank, came up with, just, created. And it's so deadly because it has these, 3 different blades on it. And she uses that in one of the scenes.
Nice. And a finished staff we have.
In fact, if you look closely, Miho's swords are Crazy 88 swords, actually from Quentin's garage.
Frank's favorite character is the character of Miho, his Japanese samurai deadly chick girl. All right. Well, he didn't know it, but I found out from Steve, the samurai swords she's using are Hattori Hanzo swords. They borrowed them out of my garage. All right. The 2 bamboo things that she has, that's from Kill Bill. The 2 samurai swords are from Kill Bill. And they're not only from the Kill, they were in my garage. Frank is fetishistically in love with Miho. And I go, you realize, don't you, that Miho uses Hattori Hanzo swords? And he goes, really? And I'm describing, I go, well, of course she uses Hattori Hanzo swords. I spent a whole movie saying that, he's the greatest swords maker in the world. Miho wouldn't mess around with anything, but she wouldn't slice a sandwich without a Hattori Hanzo blade.
When we shot Kill Bill, we made 118 different styles of sword. We spent $65,000 making the swords, the fighting swords, the sheaths, just the sword budget alone. All of these were made in Japan at a martial arts facility in Siki City, which is a city famous for its knife steel. And we've had a lot of collateral from those swords. We got Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2 out of it, and now we have Sin City. So anything that was an artistic decision, Robert would simply say, ask Frank what this is.
This is a storyboard reference from The Big Fat Kill. This is our character Miho once again. She has a vast array of weapons. I went to the archery shop with a storyboard, and the gentleman at the archery shop looked at this and immediately said that this is a Mongolian bow.
They look at a drawing I did in a few fast brush strokes and find out that it's a Mongolian bow and that Miho's using, and they bring it in.
We couldn't find that kind of bow in the country. As a result, I did gain access to a bow maker. This bow was sent to us from Hungary, a Hungarian bow maker. Took him about 3 weeks to make this.
So she flips through the air holding the bow that I drew, but is really also a real functioning bow from a different part of the world. Right down to the arrowheads, a lot of which I made up, and the throwing stars and such. I'm now seeing these in 3 dimensions. I'll tell you, I'm gonna walk away from this production with a lot of souvenirs.
I think people that are fans of Frank Miller's will see him in every shot, even though this is a Rodriguez movie.
This is our 8th project with Robert, and I got an email from him in mid-February saying, okay, we got the next one's going, it's a top secret project, and Nobody knows about it, but it's Sin City, and you guys have to do this makeup on Marv. So I was delighted at the challenge and delighted at the opportunity to create Marv and create Yellow Bastard and design Hardigan's makeup and Jackie Boy's. And the idea always was to try to capture the spirit of Frank's drawings. And we really used Frank's drawings as our initial makeup designs. So we did a scan of Mickey's head, and we created 5 different prosthetic looks because we weren't exactly sure. We had 3 weeks to build the makeup for the first segment. What sort of turned the light on for me was Frank did a drawing of Marv's profile, and you see his forehead and his nose, and then nose cuts in, but if you continue drawing a semicircle, his chin literally is in line with the semicircle. So he's like, this is the way it works. And he pulls out a piece of paper and he does a quick sketch. And he sketches Marv's profile and he draws a little semicircle and he goes, that's classic Marv. And I looked at it and went, great, all right, now I know what you want. So we built out his chin, we accentuated his nose in this area, the bridge of his nose. And that was the one we ended up going with. So Frank really knows these people intimately. So we really had the luxury of designing the characters and going to Frank and saying, what's most important about this? And he would say with the Marv, it was this. With Hardigan, it was the scar. And we designed the scar. He was really specific about it. That's what we all benefit by having Frank on set, is because Frank can say, this is what is important to these stories.
Well, this is my favorite part, guys. You can't talk. The only thing worse than this is the nose.
Once we got the makeup worked out, it was, I'll tell you, Mickey brought it to life.
I was stunned at how they were able to translate drawings into reality. Not just to make someone resemble my drawings, but the way they were able to do it in such a way that people could act right through it.
But we did the makeup in a way that it looks believable. And because there's so much desaturation in black and white, it helps hide seams. And you can get away with a lot more than you can in color, so it sells better. And so you really can't tell, well, where does the actor's face begin and end, and where's the prosthetics?
My worst nightmare, of course, would have been if Marv had looked like a Klingon. A guy with a big forehead and a gigantic head, who couldn't really communicate much. Instead, I got a version of Mickey that was so believable that when I saw him with prosthetic off after a couple of weeks of shooting, I had trouble recognizing him. He looked wrong. Each of the 3 Sin Cities has a monster, and Greg and his crowd, they have their hands all over each of the monsters.
With Benicio, that was one of the first times I can ever remember where an actor came in for a head cast and looked at the prosthetics and said, I want to look more like the guy in the book. I think I need more. And I said, listen, let's square off your chin a little bit. Let's give you a longer, thinner, more Roman nose. And those 2 pieces in conjunction with your hair down, I said, that will make you look more like Jackie Boy. And he said, great. So we literally built prosthetics because the actor said, I want to look as much like this character in the book as I can.
Well, I'd love the makeup on Benicio to turn him into this character. I mean, one of the things is that they're actually just literally sculpting the characters so they look like the characters that are drawn. So it's not Benicio, it's Jackie Boy, all right?
You can really throw curveballs at them. Like, hey, we want smoke coming out of my throat. Oh, we said that at midnight the day before. We shot the scene. At 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock in the morning when we started. The rig was already there, and they're on their toes all the time.
And he looks so good in the makeup that I forget. It's not that I forget that he's Benicio, I forget that Benicio doesn't look like that.
We developed a sort of a unique technique of using fluorescent activated makeup on top of the scars and within the blood, so that when they shot things black and white and they would key a fluorescent light, they could then use the information from the glow of the blood or the scars, and it would kick. So when you see the movie, the blood isn't going to be red in a couple of the segments. It's going to actually glow like it's white, as if it was drawn in a comic book panel.
The most ghastly by far and away is that Yellow Bastard. And his portrait of this this mutant narcissist, I think it's genuinely terrifying.
We created a variety of like 4 or 5 different full-size makeup busts. So he picked the design that he liked. We got our actor, it was Nick Stahl. We had 8 days to do a full head prosthetic, which was a whole bald head, cheek pieces, nose, forehead, ears, and then once we glued all that on, then we flocked real thin beard stubble and real thin hair on the makeup.
He's just this like hideous creature, and he's covered in prosthetics. I mean, it's kind of this sort of, you know, gritty urban kind of myth that he's sort of recreated by science, by his father, you know, and he's got these like horrible side effects.
The other challenge was because in that particular episode, he's the only thing that's in color. In each segment, there's one color that we sort of is saturated into the black and white. On Marv, it's the red of Goldie's dress. And then in Yellow Bastard, the only thing that we see color is his face and hands and ultimately later his blood. So we did test after test of different colors to paint the makeup so that we would be able to key off of it and get the exact sort of sickly yellow mustard color that the character is in Frank's book. So we ended up literally painting him blue, and then we did a highlight and shadow, and they keyed off the blue and turn it yellow in post-production. So when you see the movie, everything will be black and white except for the Yellow Bastard character. Nick Stahl's performance absolutely brought that character to life. And when he would arch his shoulders and push his stomach out, he literally looked like the drawings in the book. It was astounding.
You'll cry and beg. You'll scream.
I don't know how he did what he did under all that stuff, but again, that's part of K&B's magic, is that they were able to make him look so much like a horrifying drawing.
We've been unbelievably blessed in this movie between Mickey and Benicio and Nick. Those guys all brought those characters to life. You can only do so much when you glue rubber to somebody's head.
Ugly cow, you'll scream.
I think that what's going to ultimately happen is people are going to see this movie and they're going to realize that Robert, he would have never done this movie if he hadn't done it faithfully to the book exactly. And it has allowed the prosthetic stuff to really play a really prominent role, and I'm delighted.
I mean, the main requirement I had was just finding materials that would reflect enough light, because I was going to have to edge light them to get, it's easier for Frank when he's drawing a comic. He can draw someone all in black and then just get a white brush and paint a white outline, and then you can see them perfectly.
And obviously you can draw things that fabrics and leathers and that sort of thing don't really do.
We have to do that with lighting, which is very tough to get an edge light on a regular material. So we have to use highly reflective materials that in person might look a little, why is this guy so slick looking? But in the movie, you can't really notice. You just notice it picks up highlights and really defines their outline of their body and has them pop off the screen more. So she went and found all kinds of terrific materials for everything, and really went off the books to see what Frank had drawn to figure out how a costume like that would really piece together on somebody.
You do have to study it a lot. I mean, I look at everything through a black and white viewfinder for one thing, because it's all about the value of color and not color itself. So it's just that's been a big challenge, is turning, making the wardrobe be as big as the comic.
So she had quite a lot of fun putting these costumes together.
The costuming is one of the key things. I'm just getting Sin City, the movie, a very distinctive visual feel.
The outfits that she's been able to do, they're literally reflections right outside of the comic, and it's uncanny. She's just really incredible. She's so talented.
I took each character and made boards for them. It was just too much. If you try to flip through the book, there's information everywhere. So I really had to break it down into a much smaller world. So I built boards, storyboards that just had the character. It didn't have any of the other characters. I just did cutouts from the books. Otherwise, it would just get too confusing. So the boards really were very helpful. Everyone has been so into the characters that, we've really been able to go very close to the comic book. The character Marv, I told him, in your story, you get 3 different trench coats. pretty much everything else is the same. He really stayed in the same shirt and the same pants. He just, he would see a coat and take it. So the audience would know that he is indeed taking these coats from these other people. We just had to be really creative and come up with different styles so they look different, so it doesn't look like the same coat all the time.
I walked into my first wardrobe fitting, which there was only one really. She had the perfect stuff there. It was all there.
The first time we see Brittany, she's in a man's shirt, and she is drawn basically nude. But I had a lot of options, a lot of different ways that we could do that. Still have the man's shirt on without her being nude underneath, because it's a very sheer shirt.
But, we were working on lingerie, really.
She wore these heels. They're like 6-inch heels. Wow. They made her 6 inches taller than she actually is.
So Shelley basically wore these massive ass-kicking shoes. I mean, these spikes could kill anybody. They were pretty priceless, very dangerous.
And she wore these things all day. We couldn't get her out of them. I would say, Brittany, we need to let your feet rest. And once she was in character, she didn't want to take the shoes off. She said, no, I'll lose my stance. I'll lose my character if I take the shoes off. So by the end of the day, you can only imagine. Frank Miller actually got her bath salts for her feet to soak her feet in at the end of the day, because she was such a trooper about it. Which Jessica Alba, she looked like an angel. She had to wear chaps and work a rope and work guns, spin the guns. And at one point she had the cowboy hat on and the ropes. And so she had to be totally comfortable within her costume. And because it was chaps, I didn't want her to ever have to think about her wardrobe, because she had so many other things going on. And we wanted, she was an angel. I mean, Nancy is the sweet girl in the stories, and so there was a real fine line there of trying to make the costume sexy without going too far or not going far enough. I mean, the character Gail is literally in belts and fishnet.
She's comfortable walking around in thigh-high leather-strapped stilettos with an Uzi and handcuffs.
She has shoes that come all the way up to the top of her leg, literally, with spikes and belts. And
can't put it on by yourself. Like, it's a crazy, crazy outfit, and Frank's an insane man for drawing it, but Nina's actually been able to build it.
This is her costume. It's all color-coded so that we know how to do all the buckles when we put it on the actress. And it's definitely a costume that she has to have a little bit of help to get into it.
She gave me flowers for wearing it, which I think the woman, deserves a whole hotel room full of flowers, because she's just really incredible. She's so talented.
That was a fun character to me.
Yeah, Nina and her crew, they work magic, because I research the costumes that I draw, and I love drawing them, but it's one thing to do something with a brush on a flat piece of paper, and another thing to take a real flesh and blood woman or man and make them look like that.
I'm always astounded by what he throws at us, but I love the challenge.
It's like having my drawings come to life. It's uncanny. But it's a little better than just that, because Nina brings her own expertise, her own imagination, and she tops me a lot.
It's very exciting. I don't think anything like this has ever been done.
At the end of 2003, when I got the idea to make this movie, I had already finished doing several sequels, where I had used those as a very safe place to learn about lighting and digital photography and coming up with new ways to do special effects, becoming my own production designer. And so for my next project, I was looking for something that would really challenge me in those areas, something to push me in a new direction. So I was thumbing through my old collection of Sin City books. I realized we could do this now with cinema, using all the tricks I'd been learning over the years. The simplicity of Frank's images also offered the biggest advantage. I could control the budget. Because if ever we ran out of money, I could simply put in a very dark background and we'd still be faithful to the book. However, that's not what happened. Friendly competition set in, which is always a great thing in a lower budget movie, getting the different effects houses pitted against each other to see who would make the best story. And everyone went beyond all that they were required to do and delivered images that were incredibly stunning and a lot of times realistic when they didn't need to be. On my first test, I took some of the more difficult ideas to see if they would fly. White silhouettes, very blown out backgrounds, faces in shadow, you still see their eyes. Things that were stylistic signatures of Frank's books I wanted to try to pull off in these first tests, because I knew if we could do those, then everything else that wasn't as dramatic or showy would still work. That led us to shooting the opening scene, which was done as a test to kind of try out these more realistic backgrounds. So Josh Hartnett, Marley Shelton came down for a day and we shot them on the green screen. I then worked out these images over a period of about a week and a half with my effects team there at Troublemaker Digital. So this allowed us to put in very simple yet expanded backgrounds from the original books, which would fall somewhere between a stylized reality in the books that Frank had drawn. So a background like this in the book would look like this in the movie. A little more finished out and with a tonality that would match the skin tones. Sometimes we'd go more 2D altogether, depending on the shot and which story we were in. For instance, like in The Yellow Bastard, that's the most sparse in the movie because that's how the book was drawn as well. So one of the things I tried to figure out early on was the bandages, Mickey Rourke's bandages. That's sort of something that's applied not only to his look, but to any kind of blood that is white or anything, anytime you have something that's supposed to be dark, again, in a shadow and you want to see it. So we tried this fluorescent tape method. By shining a blue light on the orange tape, it would glow even in the shadow area. So we can then take that and in post, make it white. And we did that with blood. We did that with Hartigan's tie. The Hartigan scar, we would use fluorescent makeup on his head so that when you'd hit it with a blue light, it would shine. We'd be able to pull a matte from it and turn it white later and control how much white we put in that shadow area. Another trick that Frank uses in his book that you can't really do photographically is he gives everything an edge. This sort of realization early on convinced me that we'd have to make the movie in green screen. The only way we'd be able to isolate actors from their backgrounds and a lot of times from each other was to shoot on green screen, because then we could put lights anywhere, give them the edge that's needed when you shoot black and white. Because when you're shooting in color, color helps separate images from each other. But when you shoot in black and white, people will just tend to blend into their backgrounds or into each other. If you look at any other black and white movie, they're really more gray and white movies. They don't have as much black as we do. I like that style in Frank's book, and I wanted to do that in the movie, so we separated everybody, chose their costumes very carefully, and would use layering in order to separate people from the backgrounds. So when you have someone running through a forest, this would be impossible to keep a constant edge light on them to separate them from the trees. But because we're shooting green screen, I can put him on a treadmill, I can edge light him, creating a very graphic image. That was the thing that excited me most about the lighting, is I could finally put lights anywhere I wanted on the set and get the result that you want and have that sort of perfection to the images that you couldn't do on a normal set because of the limitations of framing and light spill. You take the bathroom, for instance. A stylistic thing you would do in cartooning is to take the tile and make it black with a white grout when it's in a shadow area. And when it gets to a bright area, you would reverse it, making it a white tile with a black grout. Now, unless we went in and hand painted everything this way on a real set, we really couldn't get this effect. It's not realistic, but to your mind's eye, it would work. You have these layers of unreality being presented as the world that you're in when you're in Sin City. People ask why the different colors of blood. Well, you got the Yellow Bastard blood, which was really blue blood when we photographed it. The white blood, which Frank would use sometimes, like in The Big Fat Kill, when Jackie Boy's arm gets cut off, he had drawn it with white blood spewing everywhere. And then sometimes I chose red blood. I found that when Bruce Willis or Mickey Rourke were bloody, it just looked like their faces were dirty. And when you want the audience to feel the pain that they're going through, you want to see that blood. So I experimented with, in post-production, I tried bringing up just the red, and it worked much better. It had this effect of being almost like a color close-up, where all you saw was the red. And that was a really dramatic effect. Somewhere in the middle of shooting, I started telling Frank that I might be pulling more color into the movie as I found necessary in editing, and explained one of the ideas would be taking Goldie and making her gold. And Frank said, oh, you're using color as a weapon. I like that. So that sort of became the idea for the film, was to use color when needed if it was going to highlight an idea or create a different abstraction or concept. So how do you go about doing something like this? Well, years ago, I started my own effects company to not only develop ideas that I had, but also to finish out shots if need be. Any of the bigger conceptual ideas or stunt shots with cars, I had my guys work out first. And then once we had it blocked out, I would then turn it over to the other effects houses to finish. Things that needed a lot more development in a look, I would do with my guys. But that's how you get to make something that's very new and very different and experimental, is by having your own effects company. It's just a necessary thing these days. The other way to save money on a movie like this, and because we're shooting green screen, is to shoot very fast. And the actors love moving that fast. The first day on green screen is always the hardest.
Can I just go home, please? Can I just go back to Los Angeles, please? Fucking great. I don't want to go to school.
Excuse me, miss. I was wondering if you could help me. I'm looking for somebody.
After that, they all get in the swing of things.
8 long fucking years, you fucking rat!
So long, Junior. Someone like Brittany Murphy was there for only one day, even though she's in all 3 stories. For instance, she never met Bruce Willis. Because our green screen was so small, shots like this that seem very dynamic, where the camera cranes up and over and around and spinning around the car, we don't really move the camera, we just move the car. There isn't room to move the camera on that green screen. We need a 360-degree green screen. Since we just have a small area, we have wires attached to the car, and we start by having the car facing the green screen and then spin it towards camera. And all we're doing with the camera, if you notice, is we're booming the camera up and then booming it back down. We're not climbing over the car at all. But once you put the background in, it appears that way. And since I've shot so many movies on green screen now, you just automatically start thinking backwards like this. So if we ever had an extra idea, like Frank came over at one point and said, I want to get a shot where blood hits Miho's face and she doesn't blink, because they've never done that in a samurai movie. I shot her with her eyes open, and in the same take, I had her close her eyes, and then we splattered her with blood. By doing that, I was able to keep her open eyes from previous in the take and superimpose it over her face when the blood hits it. This movie was going to be so different from how regular movies were shot that I got into trouble with the DGA, who said, oh, well, co-directors can't have co-directors. It usually doesn't work. How did it work with Frank? Well, we both shared something in common. He loved his material, and I loved his material. So we didn't really want to stray from that. I really wanted to translate it directly to the screen. And if you read his books, you see that he's already a director. He was just working with paper instead of a camera. I really wanted to emulate that in the movie and make the cinematic equivalent of his book. Frank had some very specific directions sometimes, like he didn't like how this mercenary was holding his gun. It wasn't his visual or how he would have drawn it. So you see him adjusting the gun and the guy's looking at him like, what the hell is he talking about? But of course, he's not seen what Frank's seen. So if you want to have fun, learn your technology. The technology helps push the art form and create new ideas. And learn it. It's all there in your house already. They've already created smaller versions of all these programs that you can have on your laptop. Sometimes they come on your laptop built in or on your home computer. And with digital home video cameras, you can already be doing everything that we're doing here and more. So have fun, be creative, and good luck. I'll talk to you next time. Bye. Because we're shooting in high definition, a lot of times I don't cut. I just let the camera roll and roll because tapes last about an hour. We're on film. The most you can get is 10 minutes. Sometimes I like to just get the actors going, and especially in a first take when they're just kind of feeling their way through. And what you're about to see is something Quentin shot. This isn't the longest take that we did in the movie. I think the longest take was 24 minutes. It was a Mickey Rourke take where we got all the coverage we needed in one go.
Okay, here we go. We're still rolling.
But I chose this sequence because Quentin actually appears on camera a few times talking to the actors.
New cigarette, Jay. Thank you.
Go for the first one. You're acting. Getting it together. Just next time you look at him, he will be dead.
Okay, so just believe it completely.
And then you're wrong.
Okay.
So when Quentin came in, he wanted to start off with the guys actually in a physical car.
I had an idea there. Sorry, bro.
We knew at some point we'd have to get rid of the car to get the kind of shots that were in the book. That ended up happening right after the first take. It's hard to direct actors when they're actually in a vehicle. You have to constantly go up to the window and get around the car just to talk to them.
More stylized version of the shot.
Exactly, yeah.
Or we can get the camera where it's impossible to get in a real car.
Right.
So when we got rid of the car, I had Quentin get on the second camera. So Quentin's operating B camera, I'm operating A camera.
No. Just that last part you did again, all right?
Watch it, Jack.
Yeah.
It just gets you much closer to the actors, much closer to the action.
Let's do that with the head back, all right?
You a sucker for the bass. But I was over here with the, oh, would you look at that? You won't?
Call AAA.
Call AAA. Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah. Don't worry about matching it right now. We'll just
Okay, fuck it. Yeah, okay.
We both have high definition monitors on our camera, so I can see what he's shooting just by clicking a switch, and he can see what I'm shooting, and we don't get the same coverage. And we're right there where we can talk to the actors and be close to it.
The first shut the hell up, Jackie, you're dead? No. The first one, yeah. The very first, like, shut the hell up, you're dead. I'm just imagining shut the hell up. I don't know whether I'm taking it in my stride too much or whether I should be more rattled by it or...
He seems got you smoking, how bad?
Yeah. I'm thinking, I like the idea that, like, do you think that if you, like, you're not alive, you're dead and everything, when you look, next time you look back, he'll be dead. But when he's not,
I see.
That's when it starts freaking. But you can go either way.
Yeah. Maybe make it more matter of fact. Shut the fuck up.
Well, I just actually less than more cool about it than matter of fact, and then you lose your cool.
Okay. I'll make it.
What? Oh, shit. Well, was I missing something?
Oh, it's alright.
Oh, okay.
For me, is the last thing you say it's over? Yeah, okay.
You're flushed. It needs to come out like a stream. I'm not 100% telling that it's coming out of your throat. It could just be wafting in the air.
Maybe you bring your neck back.
Should I look at him like this section and go like be up here?
That would probably actually work.
You know, instead of just I've been doing this other thing up here and like kind of looking at the road. Now maybe it's like, okay, toss me out, come back, I'm here. The only thing he's got to put me in this position at the end. You know, maybe he can move my head. You know, it's like I'm looking at him. I don't know.
Whatever you say.
Towards the end of his long speech.
Or even just the break, the thing of the break can just swing your head right up to, you think you've got to be bang on?
Well, I got to be bang on because of the way. I got to be bang on. But maybe I'll just get myself out here. Do all yours. And then stay here. And at some point, you know, maybe I'll just like, you know, while he's doing his speech, I just like act like I'm going into my pocket, putting the cigarette on.
That sounds good to me.
You know, and then do that stuff and, you know, whatever, plop. But you still, I'm gonna be here for the smoke.
Yeah. You just put your neck back.
Harder.
Yeah.
So then, let's do it. I take it, I light
Change
it
the
up
battery
here.
in the receiver for this light, please.
And then, this feels good.
So
Now,
the 9-volt.
Big guy.
Okay.
So wait till it's next one back.
Yeah, exactly. It's like can you make
whichever
it come out
one
more of a
Rand's using.
stream, you know, more because it's just what's let go of the camera for a second. What's happening is just kind of
Still rolling.
kind of wafting. You're not really seeing the point of origin. It could just be smoke in the air.
Let's see him pull his head back and you put blow it out.
okay, blow it out on me. Let's blow it out here.
Bring your head back down, yeah. That's kind of coming up, okay.
We could
plug
a couple of holes there.
Hold on for a second.
Hey, Greg, you might want to plug a couple of holes there so it's more sourcey.
Yeah, that's exactly what you need to do. Okay, yeah, I think you got too small of holes for it to come out, so it's just kind of coming out wimpy. Where it needs to be. Fucking makeup, waiting around for fucking makeup.
And then at the end, I just get him blowing a real one, and I can add that in to look like exactly what you're talking about. It has to come from my hair.
No, I think they're not big enough. I think they're
Okay, we'll try, but I would still add. I was still gonna probably add like a real string, because I know what you mean. It's gonna be like one that you're just blowing straight out, right? As opposed to something that's having to be hidden.
Oh, these are studs.
Can I talk to you while they're doing that?
Yeah.
So when you first hear the sirens, I think it's just
But the told you so comes from nowhere. Because I haven't said anything to him. I just said to him, I just been in a buddy movie. Told you so, it doesn't work.
I guess it refers back to One Chip Shack. But
No, it doesn't. No, it told you so, it's that the cops are coming. But it's from the book, but it doesn't.
Let me see you.
I'll talk to him.
yeah, but we have to ask them. And then after you say nose diving down, private over, you're flushed.
You're flushed.
And then that's his cue to start. This time I can't.
Yeah, I knew I meant that one.
No, Robert?
Yeah.
And of course, you want to cut hold so cut out.
Oh, right.
Big stuff, Greg?
Yeah, I just need to.
Whoa!
How you looking, Greg?
2 seconds. I just need to re-glue that. Re-glue the appliance.
Yep, everybody is.
Yeah, the Beijing. Howard Berger was continuously.
Okay, so
within
we do
hours of the same
putting
day,
on
he was a
my-
hero, or he was a bum. You're a bum.
Give me one good blast, Jake. How's that?
Oh, that's yeah.
Better. Right?
All right, here you go. Cover lens.
It's a little better, but you're not going to be putting CGI out of business anytime soon. Ouch!
Are you talking to me, motherfucker?
Computer guys are safe.
In this town, yeah.
What are you here for anyway?
Let's sit him down. Greg, I'm so glad to have you.
The only question left. Come on. So we know the hair coming over the barrel on
So are we gonna hear the siren?
Yeah.
I'll go. So I'll be on him. We'll have the same beginning. Come back. Go. Oh, this is great. Buddy movie. Move out. The laugh.
Yeah.
You want a little bit of the laugh? It says shut up, right?
Shut up, yeah.
The last half, shut up.
So shut up. The laugh. Ha ha he he ho ho. That's it.
Then it's-
And then the e.
Dave. Dave.
Let's do Star Wars.
Very good. Here we go.
I'm okay.
Frame.
Look at the Dookie Gomez line.
Same pickup as
Are you
before.
running around here going hee hee hee? Ha ha ha.
And driving.
Oh, this is great, just like being in a movie. Shut up! Oh, you're screwed. You're out. You're finished. Stick a fork in it. You're swirling around the bottom of the bowl. Nose diving down the pipe. It's over. You're flush.
This time I can't bring myself to tell him to shut up. Sure, he's an asshole. Sure, he's dead. Sure, I'm just imagining that he's talking. None of that stops the bastard from being absolutely right. I don't have a prayer about running that cop. Not in this heat. The only question left is whether I'm gonna kill him or not. Tough call.
Settle, please.
Right after the time.
Oh yeah, I think
One before you.
Okay, cool. And I was waiting for the.
Here we go. Driving.
And
Oh, this is great, just like being in a buddy movie. Shut up! You're screwed. Oh, I forgot the laugh.
You're out.
No, I forgot the laugh, right?
Do the
Okay.
laugh. Start with a laugh and then turn to him and I'll do that.
You're screwed, you're out, you're finished. Stick a fork in it. You're swirling around the bowl, nose diving down the pipe. It's over. You're flushed.
This time I can't bring myself to tell him to shut up. Sure, he's an asshole. Sure, he's dead. Sure, I'm just imagining that he's talking. None of that stops the bastard from being absolutely right. I don't have a prayer about running that cop. Not in this heap. The only question left is whether I'm gonna kill him or not. Tough call. For all I know, he's an honest cop. Regular guy. Working stiff with a mortgage, a wife, and a pile of kids. My hand moves all on its own, sliding one of my guns to my lap and thumbing back the hammer. I don't know what to do.
Oh, the angst, the torment. You're breaking my heart. Dwight, you gotta stop. You're making me mad.
Whatever you say.
Very.
Hello.
That was nice. As Sonny Chiba, all right, doing his samurai training would say, almost good. Almost good.